The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Horizon chirped an alert that Captain Jasmine Patel had never heard in her 15 years of deep space exploration. She leaned forward in her command chair, dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the bridge's forward section. Analysis, Lieutenant Rhodes. Unknown configuration, Captain. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database, said Lieutenant Thomas Rhodes, his fingers dancing across the sensor console. It's massive, at least 3 kilometers in length. The object emerged from the darkness of space like a leviathan awakening from ancient slumber. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence that seemed to absorb nearby starlight. First Officer David Okonjo stepped closer to the main display, his usual stoic demeanor replaced by undisguised wonder. "Those patterns on the hull," he said, pointing to intricate geometric designs that pulsed with internal light. "They're too precise to be natural formations." Captain Patel opened her mouth to respond when the ship's AI, no VA, interrupted with urgent priority protocols. "Captain, I'm detecting a quantum surge. Something's charging up inside that vessel." Before anyone could react, a beam of pure energy lanced out from the alien ship, missing the horizon by mere meters. The bridge crew froze, the reality of their situation crashing down like a physical weight. "That," Captain Patel said with remarkable composure, "was a warning shot. Open all frequencies, Lieutenant Hammond." Communications Officer Jessica Hammond complied, her hands steady despite the tension. "Channels open, Captain." "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jasmine Patel of the Earth science ship Horizon. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration and—" The response came not in words, but in images that flooded every screen on the bridge. The Kraxoni, as they would later be known, communicated through a complex language of visual metaphors and mathematical symbols. Their message, however, was clear enough: surrender or die. First Officer Okonjo's hand moved to the tactical console. "Captain, our shields won't hold against another shot like that, even if it's not a direct hit." "Plot an escape vector," Patel ordered, her mind racing through options. "But first, NOVA. Transmit all our sensor data back to Earth Command. Priority burst transmission." The alien vessel moved with impossible grace for its size, positioning itself between the horizon and its planned escape route. More ships emerged from fold space, smaller vessels but no less deadly in appearance. "They're hurting us," Lieutenant Rhodes observed, his voice tight with controlled fear. Captain Patel stood from her chair, straightening her uniform. "Lieutenant Hammond, prepare to transmit everything we know about human history, culture, and scientific achievements. If they want to understand us, let's give them something to study." "Ma'am." Hammond's confusion was evident. These beings, whoever they are, clearly possess technology far beyond our current capabilities. But they chose to fire a warning shot instead of destroying us outright. They're curious. And curiosity. She allowed herself a small smile. Curiosity we can work with. The next few hours became a delicate dance of diplomacy through mathematics and visual symbolism. The Kraxoni, as their transmissions eventually revealed, were not merely curious. They were conducting their own form of first contact assessment. Every response from the horizon was analyzed, every decision scrutinized. What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for centuries. Hidden beneath Captain Patel's calm exterior was a neural link to NOVA, running countless simulations and probability matrices. The ship's AI had been specifically designed for first contact scenarios, incorporating game theory, xenolinguistics, and adaptive response protocols. "They're testing us," Okonjo realized, watching the pattern of alien ships shift around them. "Every move we make, every response we send, it's all part of their evaluation." "Then let's make sure we pass," Patel responded. "NOVA, begin implementation protocol Omega-7. The A's response was immediate. "Protocol initiated, Captain. But I should warn you, this has never been tested in actual first contact situations." Neither has humanity, Paddle said, her voice carrying a steel edge of determination. And we've survived every test thrown at us so far. As the Horizon systems began the carefully orchestrated protocol, the crew watched in tense silence. They were about to either make history or become a cautionary tale in humanity's brief venture into deep space. The emergency session of Earth's Defense Council erupted into chaos as Captain Patel's transmission played for the third time. Admiral Winston Blackwood slammed his hand on the polished obsidian table, silencing the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we've spent 50 years preparing for this scenario. Now it's no longer theoretical. His weathered face reflected the holographic display of the Craxoni vessels. The Horizon's encounter was just the beginning. Dr. Ramya Suresh, head of the Quantum Defense Initiative, stepped forward. Her traditional Indian attire contrasted sharply with the military uniforms surrounding her. The Craxoni's technology operates on principles we've only theorized about. But there's something else. She manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the geometric patterns adorning the alien vessels. These aren't just decorative, she continued. They're nearly identical to patterns we discovered in the Antarctic ruins last year. The room fell silent. The Antarctic discovery had been kept secret from the public, a vast underground complex predating known human civilization. Its existence had sparked fierce debate about humanity's true origins. Commander James Hawthorne, his dark skin gleaming under the harsh lights, stood up. You're suggesting these aliens have been here before. Not these aliens, Dr. Suresh corrected, but someone who knew them. The ruins contain warnings, mathematical equations describing a war that spanned galaxies. The Craxoni were mentioned, but not as conquerors. They were the refugees. Admiral Blackwood's eyes narrowed. Refugees who became conquerors, tale as old as time. The quantum communicator chimed, interrupting their discussion. New data streamed in from deep space monitoring stations. The Craxoni fleet wasn't just approaching. They were methodically testing Earth's defense networks, probing for weaknesses. They're being thorough, Commander Hawthorne observed. These aren't the actions of a civilization planning immediate conquest. Dr. Suresh manipulated the Antarctic data, overlaying it with the Craxoni ship scans. The ruins speak of a quantum resonance technology, something that could turn their own energy signatures against them. But we'd need months, maybe years to decode it. We don't have years, Admiral Blackwood stated flatly. The Horizon bought us time, but even now, the Craxoni are likely planning their next move. Private Samantha Turner, the youngest person in the room, cleared her throat. All eyes turned to the promising protege from the Quantum Mathematics Division. What if we're looking at this wrong? The ruins weren't just warnings. They were instructions. The ancient builders left us a blueprint. She approached the holographic display, her fingers dancing through the light. Look at the quantum signatures from the Craxoni ships. They're not just similar to the Antarctic patterns. They're inversions. Like a key and lock, but we're seeing the key first. Dr. Suresh's eyes widened with realization. Of course, the ruins aren't just telling us about the technology. They're showing us how to counteract it. The ancient builders knew the Craxoni would return someday. They left us the tools to defend ourselves. Admiral Blackwood leaned forward. How long to implement this? With the entire global network of quantum computers, Dr. Suresh calculated quickly, perhaps 2 weeks, but we'd need to evacuate everyone within 100 kilometers of the Antarctic site. Do it, Blackwood ordered. And pray the Craxoni give us those 2 weeks. As the council dispersed, Private Turner lingered by the holographic display. Dr. Suresh, there's something else in these patterns, something I can't quite decode yet. The scientist studied her young prodigy carefully. What do you see? It's not just defense technology. These equations, they describe something bigger, something that could change everything we think we know about space, time, and consciousness itself. In the Antarctic facility, buried under miles of ice, ancient machinery began to hum for the first time in millennia, awakening to humanity's presence. The game of survival was about to change dramatically. The Kraxoni never expected humans to strike first. Their massive warships hung in high orbit, a show of force meant to intimidate. But they had critically misunderstood human nature. When backed into a corner, humanity didn't cower. They evolved. Quantum resonance field at maximum capacity, Private Turner announced from her station in the Antarctic Command Center. The massive chamber thrummed with energy. Ancient technology seamlessly merged with modern innovations. Dr. Shurich monitored the power fluctuations with intense concentration. The patterns are holding. Reality anchors are stable. She turned to Admiral Blackwood. "We're ready." The Admiral's voice carried across all command channels. "Operation Lazarus is go. All units, commence Phase 1. Across Earth's surface, hidden quantum transmitters activated simultaneously. The technology was crude compared to the Antarctic facility, but they didn't need perfection. They just needed chaos. In orbit, the Kraxoni fleet's superior sensors detected the energy surge too late. Their ship's geometric patterns, the source of their advanced technology, began to resonate at frequencies they couldn't control. The effect cascaded through their fleet like a tsunami of quantum disruption. "Their shields are fluctuating," Commander Hawthorne reported from the lead defense platform. "Weapon systems showing critical instability." But the Kraxoni weren't the most advanced civilization in their sector for nothing. Their ships began adapting, their patterns shifting to compensate for the quantum assault. That's when Phase 2 began. Private Turner's fingers flew across her console, initiating pattern inversion sequence. "Dr. Shurich, we need more power to the primary resonators." The Antarctic facility's ancient machinery groaned as it channeled energies that hadn't been wielded in thousands of years. The quantum field surrounding Earth pulsed, and for a brief moment, reality itself seemed to hiccup. In orbit, the effect was devastating. The Kraxoni's adaptive patterns, instead of protecting their ships, became the very frequencies that tore them apart. Warships began to break formation, their crews struggling to maintain control of technology that suddenly seemed to have a mind of its own. Multiple ships showing critical system failures, Hawthorne reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "They're falling back to defensive positions." Admiral Blackwood watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Launch the quantum torpedoes. Let's show them what humanity's been working on while they weren't looking." Earth's defense platforms launched their secret weapons, missiles containing miniaturized versions of the Antarctic technology. They weren't powerful enough to replicate the facility's effects, but they didn't need to be. They just needed to maintain the quantum disruption long enough for the Kraxoni to realize this wasn't a battle they could win through superior firepower. The alien fleet's response was immediate and unexpected. Instead of retreating, they began to change. Their ship's patterns shifted into configurations that nobody, not even the Antarctic facility's ancient builders, had predicted. "Energy readings are off the scale," Dr. Shurich announced, her voice filled with both fear and fascination. "They're doing something we haven't seen before." Private Turner studied the new patterns with wide eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "They're not just adapting. They're transcending. The patterns, they're speaking to us." The quantum communicators suddenly burst to life, with a message that needed no translation. The Kraxoni weren't admitting defeat. They were acknowledging worthy opponents. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that could not only resist their technology, but understand and manipulate it. Admiral Blackwood straightened his uniform. "Open a channel. Let's see if we can turn this fight into a conversation." As Earth's first official communication with the Kraxoni began, Dr. Shurich and Private Turner exchanged knowing looks. The patterns they'd discovered in the Antarctic ruins weren't just weapons or defense systems. They were something far more important. They were a language, and humanity had just proven they were ready to speak it. The war that everyone expected would end civilization had instead opened the door to humanity's next great leap forward. The question now was, were they ready for what lay beyond that door? In the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Antarctic facility, now transformed into humanity's first interstellar diplomatic center, Admiral Blackwood stood before a mixed audience of humans and Craxoni representatives. The alien beings, with their crystalline bodies that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury, created patterns of light that danced across the ancient walls. 3 months ago, we stood on the brink of war, Blackwood began, his voice carrying the weight of recent history. Today, we stand at the beginning of something unprecedented. Private Turner, recently promoted to head of Synological Communications, worked with her quantum interface to translate the complex patterns emanating from the Craxoni. Dr. Shurish stood beside her, monitoring the harmonics of their quantum resonance field. The lead Craxoni delegate, who had taken the translated name Resonant of First Light, stepped forward. Their crystalline form pulsed with colors that the human eye could barely process. Your species has achieved what no other has managed in 10,000 years of our expansion. The quantum translation echoed. You did not merely resist, you understood. Dr. Shurish activated the main holographic display, showing the combined research of human and Craxoni scientists. The geometric patterns that had once been weapons now formed the basis of a new technology, one that neither species could have developed alone. The Antarctic builders, she explained, didn't leave us weapons to defeat the Craxoni. They left us a bridge, a way to communicate across the quantum divide that separates different forms of consciousness. Private Turner's quantum interface hummed as she added, the patterns we thought were weapons were actually fragments of a universal language, one based on the fundamental mathematics of reality itself. The chamber's ancient machinery resonated with new frequencies as Resonant of First Light shared their own revelation. Our empire expanded because we believed we were alone in our understanding of quantum consciousness. We sought not to conquer, but to find equals. In humanity, we found not just equals, but teachers. Admiral Blackwood couldn't help but smile at the irony. We thought we were preparing for war, but we were actually preparing for graduation. The quantum field surrounding Earth had changed permanently. The combination of Antarctic technology and Craxoni science had opened doorways that neither species had dreamed possible. Ships could now traverse galaxies in moments, consciousness could be shared across vast distances, and the barriers between different forms of life had begun to dissolve. But with this power comes responsibility, Dr. Shurish cautioned, addressing both human and Craxoni audiences. The Antarctic builders left us more than technology. They left us a warning about what happens when quantum consciousness is wielded without wisdom. Resonant of First Light's form shifted in what humans had learned was a gesture of solemn agreement. Our history speaks of those who came before, beings who transcended physical form but lost their connection to the cosmos itself. We must not repeat their journey. Private Turner's quantum interface suddenly pulsed with new patterns, ones that neither human nor Craxoni technology had detected before. The ancient walls of the facility began to resonate with frequencies that seemed to come from the dawn of time itself. It's a message, she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. The builders, they're still out there. And they're saying, we're ready. As the combined fleet of human and Craxoni ships prepared for humanity's first official journey beyond known space, Admiral Blackwood reflected on how quickly everything had changed. They had prepared for a war that never came, only to find themselves on the brink of an adventure beyond imagination. The Antarctic facility, once a tomb of ancient secrets, now served as humanity's gateway to the stars. The patterns that decorated its walls were no longer mysterious warnings, but welcome signs pointing toward humanity's next great journey. Dr. Shurish stood at her station, watching the quantum field ripple with possibilities. The universe, she mused, has a peculiar sense of humor. We thought we were learning to fight, but we were actually learning to dance. As the combined fleet initiated its quantum jump sequence, Private Turner decoded one final message from the Antarctic builders. It was simple, yet profound. Welcome to the cosmic conversation. The real journey begins now. The war that never was had given birth to a peace that no one had imagined possible. Humanity had not just survived its first contact with advanced alien life, It had evolved beyond its own expectations. The stars awaited, and this time, Earth's children would not venture forth alone. The geometric patterns that had once heralded the approach of alien warships now lit the way to humanity's true destiny, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners in the greatest exploration the galaxy had ever known. Beyond the quantum veil, the Antarctic builders watched and waited. Their long vigil was ending, and a new chapter in the cosmic story was about to begin.